You're listening to the Akbad Show. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the same thing. You're sick and tired of the Sony menu system. And I know a little bit about it because I've been using this thing for quite some time now. I've had my a7RIII Mark III now for a couple of years. So I've gotten a chance to use the menu system. There's certain things I use, there's certain things I really don't use. And this is one of those videos where, I'm just going to tell you what I know and what I don't know. There's a lot of videos out there that are far more detailed than this video. This video is going to be more for the guy who uses the Sony product constantly, uses the menu system, but doesn't know the menu system as well as the experts. But I'll tell you what I use. Okay? Does that help? Does that make sense? So that's what I'm going to try to tackle today. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is, as you see, we're looking at section number 1 in the menu system. And they did try to improve it a little bit on this a7RIII by having the little tabs up at the top that you can see up there, the little tabs up there and all that. But it's still a real problem. You're going to see why in just a little bit. So right now, in tab number 1, we're in section 1 of 14. I don't know if you can see that, but section 1 of 14 right there. Now that's a little detail. So there's a lot of stuff in here. So the first thing I'm looking at is we're in file format RAW. This first tab is going to be talking specifically, I'm going to say, about photography. Now, you'll see why I'm a little hesitant to say that, but here we go. So the first thing we're looking at is file format. And right now I have mine set at RAW. So I'm going to click on it, for example, and let you see some options. So not only do you have RAW as an option, but you can also use your 2 memory cards as a really good option by saving one JPEG on one memory card and a RAW on the other. So every time you take a shot, you're making one JPEG and you're making one RAW shot. It's kind of nice. A lot of people use that. Me personally, I just shoot straight RAW. I don't worry about JPEGs too much because I can't do anything with them in post-production, and I do a lot of post-production. Of course, the third option there, JPEG, I really don't ever use that only. Well, I have used it once only, but you will in your case. So everybody's case is a little different. All right, so the next section here says raw file type. And right now, as you see, I have selected uncompressed. Now, uncompressed is going to be a huge file. You have the option of compressed, and compressed is really, really good too. You can get a lot of room in Lightroom to do different things with your colors and your exposure and whatever else you're trying to modify. Although, if you put it on uncompressed, it gives you a little bit more playroom. So I have been using it uncompressed all this time, and it eats up a lot of your memory card, but it gives you a really good result. So I think you'll be very, very happy with it. If you are going to shoot JPEG, this is where this section right here comes in. You ask, well, what kind of quality of a JPEG do you really want to shoot? Right now, if I'm going to shoot a JPEG, it's going to be this option, extra fine. You do have an option for fine, which is a little less than extra fine, I would assume. And then, of course, the standard option, which I don't use at all. I figured if I'm going to shoot a JPEG, let's at least shoot that thing at a high quality. That's the way I look at it. Okay, well, here we go. We're going to look at the JPEG image size. So I usually keep mine at the largest. Right now, I'm shooting a full frame, as you know, and it's one of the a7R Mark IIIs that are out there. I've also shot with the Mark IV, which is over 60 megapixels, but this one is a 42 megapixel camera that you're looking at right now. And with this 42 megapixel, it does give me the option to go ahead and shoot this JPEG at up to 42 megapixels. These are the different options that I do have under full frame. Now, if I was to put this camera into crop mode, which we can talk about on another video, which actually makes your sensor size not the sensor size, but it makes the image size a little bit smaller, like a crop camera would, or one of the lesser expensive cameras. You can get a little bit more zoom by doing that. Again, you will find this out in later videos. I'll talk to you more about that. But when you put a camera in crop mode, you'll notice that you will not be able to have the same options of 42 megapixels. It would be more like 24 megapixels or somewhere around there being the largest. So we'll talk about that on another time, but just to let you know, on this particular camera at full frame, these are the options for JPEG, okay? Now, here's the aspect ratio. Aspect ratio, I have mine set at 3:2. So aspect ratio is going to be really the shape of your frame. So you'll notice whenever you're seeing those director's cut videos, those movies, it look like the thing is, the screen is like this, you know, real narrow, you know, real, and with pictures, with photos, they're more like this, you know, kind of square, right? Well, 3.2 represents more of the squarish, rectangular look, and the 16:9 is going to deal more with the cinema look. Think of a motion picture that you're watching. So if you're ever shooting video and you want it to have that really big cinematic look, you definitely want to shoot it in a ratio of 16:9 in opposed to 3:2. 3:2 is going to be the setting that you're going to use for photography most of the time. I'm going to say almost 100% of the time, almost. So I'm going to keep it at 3:2. All right. ASPC is what we were talking about when we said crop. This camera has the ability to shoot that. It is the APS-C is also known as Super 35 millimeter. That's a term that we'll teach that later. But Super 35, think of that as being a crop on a Sony camera. What I do is I set mine on automatic. Whenever this camera, I want it to I want it to jump to crop whenever I happen to put a crop lens on my camera. This is going to help me here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that on automatic, and I'm going to hit this menu button. It's going to allow me to go backwards. There we go. We're going to go to the next section, which is section 2. You see that? So we had 1 of 14, now we're at 2 of 14. You see all of these options. It's pretty interesting. So the only option available here, you see there's a lot of grayed out stuff here, but you have color space here. I keep mine at sRGB. Now, the other option is Adobe RGB. Don't get me wrong. Adobe RGB is very good. There are other videos where we could talk about Adobe RGB, but Adobe RGB is very specific. I would say keep your camera at sRGB unless you're planning on doing all of your post-production, all of your processing, and everything specifically on a software that's going to be running Adobe RGB. That is the only way I would say shoot in Adobe RGB, because if not, your colors are going to come out a little bit weird on general types of post-production that most people are going to be doing. So again, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I will say right now, keep your setting at sRGB. It's going to be the best route for you. Okay? Keep it at sRGB. I don't know how many times I can say that. Lens compensation is what this is all about. I keep everything at pretty much automatic. I keep my shading at automatic. The chromatic aberration, I want to keep that at automatic. The camera does pretty much a lot of things automatically very well. One of the main reasons why I got this camera, it pretty much handles everything the way I want it. I don't want it to do any kind of composition or changing or anything, trying to stop any distortion or anything. I think that we'll keep that on off. Let's go back in the menu again. And what we're going to do is go to section 3 here. We're still in tab 1, but we're just in the section 3 of tab 1. The drive mode. Well, I like to shoot continuous shooting. Let's go inside here. You have different options, okay? So you have a continuous shooting high, which means I can press that shutter button down and it's going to keep on taking pictures. But you'll see right next to it, it has the word high, H-I next to it. We have different options though. If I was to hit this button right here, you'll notice that it'll change to mid, which will change the speed of the, you see what I'm saying? I'm just making the sound effects. And we also have low, which will actually slow down the speed even more when you press that button down and continue to hold that button down. You have a high plus, which is even faster than high. Now high is ridiculous. I think that thing shoots close to 10, 11 frames per second. When I'm holding that thing down. This high plus will go even higher if I'm not mistaken. I could be a little wrong on some of those numbers, but a high plus, it has one negative aspect about it. One negative aspect, the high does tend to let you see a little bit more of what's going on in the screen while it is shooting. If you put it on high plus, well, it tends to black out the screen a little bit more as you're shooting. So it makes it a little bit challenging. And that was as of the last update that I looked at. Again, I'm speaking solely on my experience going into this menu system since using this Sony. So get ready to hit the thumbs down button if I'm not being as accurate as you thought I would be. But anyway, let's go on up here. I'm going to keep this on high. Okay, this part right here. I'm going to keep it on high because I like high. High works really well. This is going to be more like single shooting. So when I press that button down, and even if I hold that button down, it's only going to shoot one shot at a time. It's not going to continue to shoot. Now, let's go down a couple of spaces here. This one we didn't talk about yet. Now, this is more of a timer. You can set a timer. And you can set how many seconds you want that timer to wait before it actually shoots. So you can go ahead and hit that button, and now you have 10 seconds, as you can see there, before that shutter will actually hit. I can hit this button right here, and it'll give me more options. You'll notice these little arrows left and right here that are popped up next to it. Lets you know that you can press this button, and there's some more stuff to show you. So let's go ahead and click that. It gives you a 5-second option, gives you a 2-second option, and there's your 10-second option again. Okay, sometimes you want 2, sometimes you want 5. That's pretty cool. Let's go down to the next one. Now this one I don't use very much. Okay, this is actually kind of cool, and you'll notice it has a little bit more information showing up on the screen. It's still a self timer. Right now I have it set for 10 seconds. It holds for 10 seconds right before it starts hitting that shutter. But when it does hit that shutter, it's going to take 3 fast images. Remember, I have this set at high. I can slow that down. And that's how fast these 3 images will take. Does that make sense? Let's press the little button here. As you see the 2 arrows showing up right on here on the left and the right. And see what options we have. Okay, the 10 seconds only one I see there. Oh, wow. Okay, it gives me the 2 seconds wait and 5 images. Pretty cool. 2-second wait, 3 images. 5-second wait, 5 images. You see what's going on? 5 seconds, 3 images. 10 seconds, 5 images. You see what's going on? Pretty cool, right? Let's go down to the next one. Now these I haven't used at all yet. But these will come in really, really handy, especially when you're doing these landscape shots, things like that, where you want to get different exposures. Okay, so let's say you want to get something with a really high exposure, a shot with a really high exposure, one with more of a medium exposure, and one with more of a slower exposure. And you want to shoot it while the tripod is still holding your camera, right? But you don't want that camera to move, and you want to take those shots right away, almost at the same time. Here is where you can actually set that, so it can actually bracket your shots. Let's go ahead and check out these little arrows here, and let's see what it does. Okay, so if I was to do this button, it didn't do too much. Oh, it did. Okay, so it takes 3 images that way. It takes 5 images. There's a 0.3 interval between the settings, between low, medium, and high. Let's go here. a7RIII EV at 9 images, pretty cool. So a7RIII give you a little bit more leeway in between your low, medium, and high, and it takes 3 images. a7RIII at 5 images, a7RIII at 9 images. You see what's going on there. And you also have now that's at continuous shooting. Now you also have here's single bracket, and this one I haven't played with at all. You also have other options here, so I'm going to kind of go through some of these options that I've never seen before. You'll notice this one has an S next to it. This one has a C. So I would imagine this is a single shot. This is continuous. This is bracket shooting. Not sure what the low is, but this has to do with your white balance. So I'm just kind of going through these. Again, I don't know what these are. Never played with these. These are just more options that are in this camera that I've had for 2 years, and I still haven't played with everything in it. Look at that. Now, I've seen this before with a DRO bracket, and I'm not going to comment on it because I'm quite sure I'm going to get it wrong, but I will say from what I do remember, that DRO is kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It'll let you do some stuff that, anyway, you'll see. But let's go and get out of this right now, because I don't think we messed up anything. I think we're cool with what settings that we have. We're still going to go down the page. So remember we were talking about bracket settings? Right now, I don't have anything set up on bracket. I keep it pretty simple. I keep it pretty straightforward. I control everything, as I shoot. I don't have any bracket set up. But if you wanted to, you could set the order in the way you want your bracket to go, and you can also set up your self timer during that bracket. So you may not want it to go ta-ta-ta. You may want it to do something else. You may want it to shoot at different times. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get out of that part. And what we're going to do is, pixel shift. Now, pixel shift is something I haven't played with yet. There are many videos out there that are talking about pixel shift. And what pixel shift does, it actually can take up to 16 pictures of the same image. You got to use a tripod now. Of the same image, and then it combines all 16 different types of shots with different types of color spectrums and different kind of everything combined and making one super duper sharp image. That's something that Sony came out. It's called pixel shift. This is where you would go in there to actually turn it on and to operate it. Let's click inside to see what it looks like. So right now you really can't see anything there. Pixel shift interval. Let's go ahead and play with these. So you see it has all of these intervals here, and again, pixel shift is supposed to be some really cool stuff. I haven't played with it because it's so detailed. I just really don't find much use in that because I don't shoot that type of landscape, for example. And again, whatever image you're shooting has to be completely still, basically still lives, landscape, things like that. So it's going to be one of those type of situations with pixel shift. A grayed out area, so we really can't get in there. So this is going to be memory. This is a trip because you can have settings that you set up in this camera. You can go in there and just set them all up. Then you can tell your camera to memorize all of these settings. You can save it in banks. So bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, and you can just pull those banks up and those settings will automatically be there ready to go. Kind of cool, huh? So for example, my memory bank is showing if I was to put my camera on setting number 1 up at the top on my wheel, these are the settings that it would move my camera to. It automatically knows, it remembers, hey, boom, here we go. Just like that. Pretty cool. If I was to put in memory bank 2, it would look like that. Memory bank 3, it would look like that. Now, I haven't set up anything on 2 and 3. I haven't even tried. But it is really, really cool for those who do and need to have different types of settings that they jump to at, random times. So I'm not doing that, but hey, you definitely can do that. Just to let you know, that's an option. Sony cameras are kind of cool. So here we go. Select media. Now, when you think about that, you say, you remember you have 2 memory cards. Where's the media actually going to? Is it going to slot 1? Is it going to slot 2? Well, this is the media slot 1. So if I go in and shoot any kind of video, it's definitely going to go to slot 1. That's just kind of what I pick, or where all my media goes. Keep it kind of simple. You can actually register faces. I haven't done it. You can actually look at a person's picture, look at a person's face, take a picture of their face. The camera will memorize their face. And then when you go out there and you shoot, like a group shot, for example, I'm just going to use that for an example. You shoot a group, that camera will recognize that one guy's face and make sure that if nobody else is in focus, that dude is going to be in focus. It's kind of weird, isn't it? But hey, thought I'd tell you this is kind of crazy. Now this is supposed to be something a little different though, right here. So I haven't played with this one, so it kind of fooled me. Register customer. Well, anyway, as you see, we're in section number 5 only of tab number 1. That's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. Okay. Priority in autofocus shutter, or single or continuous. Basically what it's saying is, when I press this shutter down, let me show you. Are we just going to go ahead and release the shot? Are we going to put balance emphasis on, are you in focus? Or are we just going to release this shot? Because the camera is going to decide if you want it to. It's going to decide whether to just concentrate on focusing and making sure that subject is in focus before that shot actually goes off. Or you can set it at release. That means anytime you press that button, whether it's in focus or not, what's in command is you and that button, right? So that button releases in top priority, that's it. Okay, so you hit and miss, right? Balanced emphasis is more like in the middle, where a lot of people would put their camera, really. Most people, I would say, are going to keep it on balanced emphasis, because it's going to give you that response time you want from your shutter, yes. And some good shots are not necessarily in perfect focus, okay? But if you want that camera to really concentrate on being in focus when you make that shot, then I would say you want to go ahead and set it at AF, okay? So that's what I did. And this is for single shot, and this is for continuous, okay? So I wanted to make sure that I'm getting the shot more than anything. I'd rather have a slight delay if I needed it. My focus area right now is wide. So let's take a look. You have wide. You can also shoot in different zones. So I can actually move the emphasis on this side of the screen, or this side of the screen, or this side of the whole screen, and it will just only search in those areas. You know what I'm saying? So you have different zones you can be in. This is going to be center. Everybody knows about center, where your focus is dead center in the screen. This one is actually kind of nice. Flexible spot. You can actually move the focus where you want it to be, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to boom. It's going to focus on it. But these Sonys are going to do even better, because not only is it going to focus on it, but it's going to lock in on it. And as he moves around, it's going to follow it. This is another one, expandable, flexible spot. Extremely good. You have a really nice option there to really catch your subject and do whatever you want. As you see, that you have the 2 lines here showing up on flexible spot. So right now I have flexible spot M, flexible spot L, which is large, and flexible spot small. Okay, I usually just keep mine at M, like a medium, and if I use it. But a lot of times I just go in and shoot wide. I shoot wide. It seems to do pretty well in general shooting. Every once in a while I need to go ahead and make changes on that. Oh, I don't play with this. I don't know anything about this. I'm going to stay away from this.
You're listening to the Akbad Show.
I'm going to take a break because there's too many things that are just in this one tab. We're in section 6 of 14, so there's a lot going on just in this section. So we're going to take a small break, and I'll be right back.